Welcome back to Views with Hughes, Agenda-Free News. This is Jerome Hughes, and let's go ahead and get right into it. So, once again, Skeleton Crew. Today, we're diving deep into the fan reaction to the upcoming Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau, set to hit Disney+. Now, Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau is being touted as the next big thing in Star Wars universe, a fresh start, a return to form. But if you talk to real Star Wars fans, those who have been with the Star Wars franchise from the beginning, those who understand the essence of George Lucas's original vision, well, you hear a much different story. Okay, so people are saying that Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau is Lucasfilm's attempt to win back fans by giving it an 80s nostalgia feel. And sure, on paper, sounds like a good idea, like a smart move, but the 80s was the golden era, not just for movies, but for pop culture in general. And it's an era that resonates deeply with Star Wars fans because that's when the original trilogy reached its peak. But there's a problem. See, using Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau to dress up something in 80s nostalgia doesn't make it authentic. It's like putting a fresh coat of paint on a crumbling building. It might look good on the outside, but it doesn't fix the foundation. Okay, now with that being said, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are the creative minds behind Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau. Now, I have a lot of respect for Jon Favreau and some for Dave Filoni. See, Jon Favreau, of course, brought us The Mandalorian, a series that at least initially felt like it was bringing Star Wars back to its roots. And Dave Filoni, well, he's been involved with Star Wars for years, and many fans see him as kind of their opponents to George Lucas. But here's the thing, even with these two at the helm, fans are still skeptical. Why? Because of Kathleen Kennedy. All right, now Kathleen Kennedy is one calling the shots at Lucasfilm, and as long as Kathleen Kennedy's in charge, there's always going to be doubt. Now think about it. Now, many times we've heard that this was the next project that is going to be one that's going to say Star Wars. We heard it with The Force Awakens, we heard it with The Last Jedi, we heard it with The Rise of Skywalker, and each time fans were left disappointed. So can you really blame the fans for not getting their hopes up and about Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau? Now, I want to talk a little bit about this whole 80s nostalgia angle, because it's important. You see, nostalgia is a powerful tool. We've seen it countless times. It can evoke strong emotions, bring back fond memories, and create a sense of connection to the past, but it can also be a double-edged sword. Now, if nostalgia is all you have to offer, then you're just recycling old ideas without bringing in anything new to the table. And that's exactly what the fans are worried about with Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau. Now, sure, the trailer might have that 80s vibe and marketing might push all the right buttons, but at the end of the day, if the story doesn't capture the essence of Star Wars, it's just going to go fall flat. And fans want more than just a trip down memory lane. Fans want a story that feels like it belongs in the Star Wars universe, a story that honors the legacy of George Lucas. Now, honestly, let's take a step back and think about where we are today. Now, for over 40 years, Star Wars has been more than just, a series of movies. It's been a cultural phenomenon, a beacon of storytelling that captured the imaginations of millions. And it's been a part of our lives, of our childhoods. And for many of us, it's something we've shared with our own children. But then the past decade happened and some things changed. And that magic, that sense of wonder that George Lucas brought to the original trilogy has been fading. All right. And who's to blame for that? Look no further than Kathleen Kennedy, president of Lucasfilm. Okay. Now, under Kathleen Kennedy, we've seen a lot. Under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership, we've seen Star Wars move away from the core principles that made it great. The sequels, the spinoffs, each one seems to stray further from, the heart of Star Wars. Now, Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau, we're being told that this is going to be different. This is going to be like the series that brings the fans back. But can we really trust that? I mean, under Kathleen Kennedy leadership, Lucasfilm has made a habit of prioritizing woke spectacles or woke agendas over substance. And the sequels in particular are a prime example of this. Now, they were visually impressive, but no doubt about that. But they lacked the depth and the heart that made the original trilogy so special. Now, Star Wars fans felt like they were being pandered to, and like Lucasfilm was more interested in ticking woke boxes and appealing to broad demographics than a story telling a meaningful story. And that's why there's so much skeptical surrounding Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau. Okay, now let's not forget Kathleen Kennedy is the same person who has overseen most of, well, not even most, like all the controversial decisions in Star Wars history, okay? From the way Luke Skywalker was handled in The Last Jedi to the introduction of divisive characters and storylines that felt more like political statements of woke ideology than genuine additions to the Star Wars mythos. And Kathleen Kennedy's tenure has been marked by a series of missteps that have alienated a large portion of the fan base. And now, with Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau, you know, we're supposed to believe that, actually, are we supposed to believe that the things are going to be different? That this time that Jon Favreau got it right? And it's hard to buy into that narrative when history tells us otherwise, okay? Now, there's also the issue of trust. You see, trust is something that takes years to build, but it can be shattered in an instant. And right now, the trust between Star Wars fans and Lucasfilm is at an all-time low. And fans don't trust Lucasfilm to deliver a product that respects the legacy of Star Wars. And they don't trust Kathleen Kennedy to make decisions that are in the best interest of the Star Wars franchise. And because of that, the fans just don't trust Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau. But let's be clear. See, fans aren't skeptical because they want to be. They're skeptical because they've been given every reason to be. You see, they've seen what happens when Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy try to cash in on nostalgia without respecting the source material. And the fans have seen what happens when Kathleen Kennedy and her agenda takes precedence over good storytelling. And the fans are not willing to be fooled again, okay? But as I mentioned earlier, you know, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are, you know, well, to an extent, talented creators. I say that about Dave Filoni. Now, Jon Favreau has shown that he can deliver Star Wars content that resonates with fans, but they're working with a system that consistently failed to meet expectations. And as long as Kathleen Kennedy is at the helm, there's always going to be doubt. But at the same time, Kathleen Kennedy just might not have much to do with this project Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau. Okay, so there's some optimism there, but it's just not good enough. So what can Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau do to win back fans? Well, first and foremost, it needs to be more than just a nostalgia trip. It needs to tell a story that feels like it belongs in the Star Wars universe. You know, a story that honors the legacy of George Lucas, and it needs to give fans a reason to care, a reason to invest their time and energy into this new chapter of the Star Wars saga. Okay, but let's be real here. It's more than that. It proves that Lucasfilm is capable of delivering on its promises, but fans have heard all the buzzwords before: return to form, respecting the past, bringing the magic back. But they've been let down too many times. And if Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau is going to succeed, then it needs to back up those words with actions. All right. And let's call it what it is. At the end of the day, fans want Star Wars to be great again. All right. They want to believe that Lucasfilm and Disney can deliver the kind of content that made them fall in love with the franchise in the first place. But their trust has been broken, and it's going to take more than just 80s nostalgia to repair it. Okay. And let's not forget the bigger picture here. You see, Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau isn't just a test for this one show. It's a test for the future of the entire Star Wars franchise. And if Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau fails to deliver, it's going to be a massive blow to the credibility of Lucasfilm and Disney. And if that happens, it's going to be even harder for them to win back the trust of the fans. So as we wait for, you know, the release of Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau, you know, make sure you keep a critical eye on what's being presented. Don't let the nostalgia cloud your judgment at all. Make sure you look beyond the surface of Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau and ask yourself, does this feel like Star Wars? Does this capture the essence of what George Lucas created? And most importantly, does this give you hope for the future of the Star Wars franchise? You know, because if it doesn't, then we need to hold Lucasfilm accountable. All right. We need to demand better. We need to make it clear that Star Wars fans won't settle for anything less than the very best. And that starts with being honest about what we're seeing with Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau. Okay. Now, while there's like a lot of buzz around Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau, there's also a lot of skepticism, and for good reason. You see, fans have been burned too many times before, and they're not willing to blindly trust that this time Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau will be any different. Now, the success of Star Wars Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau will depend on, whether it can truly capture the essence of Star Wars, not just in aesthetics, but also in spirit. And as long as Kathleen Kennedy remains at the helm of Lucasfilm, that's a tall order. But one thing is certain: Star Wars fans aren't going to be fooled again. The Star Wars fans want substance, they want heart, and they want Star Wars that feels like Star Wars. The ball is in Lucasfilm's court. Let's see if they can actually deliver. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Also, be sure to include what you think about Skeleton Crew by Jon Favreau in the comments below as well. Also, if you enjoy what I share in this video, go ahead, smash the like button, share far wide across social media. And if you haven't done so already and you enjoyed all the content that I put out there, go ahead, subscribe to the channel. Click the bell notification so that way you'll be notified of future uploads and updates. Till then, peace.